Hello, and welcome to the new EURES Webinar, Info from the Network, a recap of recent events. Let's start presenting today's agenda. In order, we will hear Robert Komaromi and Paulo Emerenciano from ELA, who will introduce us to the event held on the 29th of March in Brussels and titled, Where are the shortages, where are the workers? The drivers behind labor shortages in Europe and how to tackle them. After their presentation, we will also watch an abstract of the event, with the intervention of Irene Mandel, head of unit of ELA. The second contribution, Customer-Centered Digital, Organization of a Web Tutorial, by Vera, Onnebrink and Zainab Saadoun will cover the organization of web tutorials, online events created by the German Bundesagentur für Arbeit. The third contribution, Seizing the Summer since 2017, A Few Highlights and Challenges, is provided by Margarida Silva, Training Coordinator from Portugal and Eva Touriño, Training Expert from Spain, and will cover the organization of one of the biggest events of the network. Lastly, at the end of the webinar you will have the chance to ask questions directly to the speakers during a live Q&A session. In this last part of the webinar, we will hear some more insights on the topic proposed and you will have the chance to interact with the speakers using the comments section. Now, enjoy the EURES webinar.
Okay, good morning, colleagues. Here is Robert Komaromi from Bratislava, from the European Labour Authority. We are here in our virtual studio together with Paulo, with our communication manager. And in the coming minutes, you are going to receive a short briefing, a short information about our event, which were organized in Brussels end of March. Where are the shortages? Where are the workers? That was the title of our event. So let's start. That was the official web page, the official entry of the event. And you can see in the middle, it was an official European Labour Authority event in close cooperation with EURES colleagues and also with Eurofound. You may ask me why Eurofound logo is on the first page, and then tell you that at the European Labour Authority we have different so-called sister agencies. Actually, we have 4: the CEDAFOP, the OSHA, the European Training Foundation, and Eurofound. And this event had been managed together with Eurofound, therefore the Eurofound logo is on the first page. Let's speak about the main speakers and topics. I think it is not a surprise that our executive director, Cosmin Boyanci, opened the meeting, and then the second speaker was the director, or executive director of Eurofound, Ivailo Kalfin. And the third people was Jos Korte, the Director General of the European Commission, Employment and Social Affairs, DG Employment. And it was a nice pleasure for us as Jos Korte, high-level official of the European Commission, accepted our invitation. Finally, I think you know Irene Mandel. She is the head of ECHO at ELA, head of unit information and EURES. Irene explained the main conclusions of the report in detail in her presentation. And as I mentioned to you, it was a joint event between ELA and Eurofound, therefore Tina Weber, a Eurofound expert, also had a presentation. And finally, at the roundtable discussion, we invited Stefan Olsson, the Deputy Director General of DG Employment. So you see, colleagues, that was a very high-level event with high-level speakers, VIP persons. But at the same time, we had also a panel discussion during the event to speak about practical experiences and impacts of shortage and surpluses, and all the events what we do organize has a personal aspect. Of course, that panel discussion was my favorite minutes of the event, as we had also a worker from Slovakia, Cairo Les, who explained the situation in Slovakia, who explained the career path, how he moved to Germany, how he moved to how he moved to United Kingdom to work there, and how was the experiences of him working in shortage and surpluses occupation across Europe. So I think it was a very nice panel discussion, as he represented a worker perspective. We invited also CEO Philip from Portugal, from a cross-border cooperation between Portugal and Spain. And as CEO is member of the Portuguese Business Association, she explained the perspective of companies and employers regarding shortage and surplus situation. And finally, we invited Elisa Laria from the Finnish ministry. She explained the policy maker and policy specialist perspective regarding shortage and surplus occupations in Finland. The panel discussion had been moderated by Irene Madel. And this is a picture about this panel discussion. Let's continue about the products of this event. We produced a web page, an event web page, a dedicated event web page. We produced a short video, and I'm asking now the EY colleagues to start the video.
Europe experiences a situation in which there are not sufficient workers in some occupations or regions to satisfy the needs of employers. At the same time, there are other occupations or regions in which workers cannot find an employment opportunity.
Then we are after the video. We have also a photo gallery. You can find the photos about your event on the event web page. You can find also the report on the web page, and you can find an interactive dashboard on the EURES portal. So there they are the products of the event. Some background and findings of the report. I think you all know that this shortage report, we have the first publication in 2016 at the European Commission, and since we have ELA, the report is at ELA hand, and this is the second edition of the report since we have ELA. I give you time to read my points on the slide. I would like to speak about the methods only about these slides. At first, I would like to say thank you to NCOs. Would like to say thank you to NCOs, and would like to say thank you to the EURES colleagues who provided us input and data regarding shortages and surpluses in your country. At the same time, we use also ZFOP and Eurostat data. And finally, what I would like to mention, that we organize also focus group interviews with NCOs, cross-border partnerships and social partners on European and at national level. So these are something new elements of the report. Here you can find the most common shortage and surplus occupations in Europe. If you would like to check the details, please go on page 20 and 28 on the report. I repeat, if you would like to check the details of shortages and surpluses, please go on page 20 and 28. And as I mentioned to you, we produce not only the report, but also the data on EURES portal. We have a so-called interactive dashboard. It is an XLS form. You can download the data what we have, and you can play with data. You can play with geography a little bit. So in that interactive tool, you can click on countries, you can click on occupations, you can select surplus, you can select shortages, and you can play with data. You can see the visualization of data using this dashboard. Even the dashboard is a nice tool to compare countries. For example, in this slide, you see an accountant occupation. In the middle, you see this occupation is shortage in Norway, in Denmark, in Poland, in Slovenia, in France, Switzerland, Belgium, and Netherlands. At the same time, this occupation is surplus in Estonia, Slovakia, and Bulgaria. So you can select countries, you can select occupations. I think it's a very useful tool, not only to have text as a report, but also to get access to the data. And at this point, I would like to give you the headset to Paulo to continue with communication.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Here, my name is Paulo Emerenciano, EURES Communication Officer, and it's my pleasure to be here today to talk about the communication preparations for to support the shortages and surpluses session in Brussels. First of all, this event was organized jointly with Eurofound Communication Officer and team, and we devised in the beginning a communication plan for the event itself, so a very short communication plan. And this communication plan had mainly two objectives. First of all, it was to attract the stakeholders that were involved with the topic of shortages and surpluses, and the target audiences regarding the public as well, of the two agencies, and also to communicate the main findings of these two reports in terms of policy making, the importance of the reports is also for information for the public. And our aim was really we had a list of people to invite, stakeholders to invite to the on-site session, but we wanted very much to raise the awareness and draw the attention of public that could also attend online. So these were the objectives. Then in terms of phases, of course, the phases were very simple. So we had 3 phases before the event. So in order to promote as much as possible to have the maximum number possible of online audience. Then on the event itself, during the event, to remind people that the event was taking place. Then after the event, the focus will turn to presenting the content of reports. And so this was mainly to prolong the effect of the event and to reach out for more people about this information. So we had before the event, we had quite a few number of decisions to take. An event like this seems many times that is simple for people that are attending, but behind the scenes, there's a lot of activities going on. So we had, first of all, to decide the joint branding. The joint branding because it was to agencies. So being two agencies, we cannot use the branding that we are used to. So we had to agree on a branding. So in this case, we focused on the European Year of Skills branding. And the branding, as you can imagine, applies to PowerPoints, to the badges, to any product that is usually produced for the event specifically. Then we had to agree also on the handles and hashtags. Our policy was to use both hashtags from Eurofound and EURES, and to tag Ella as well. And we used this hashtag, which was labor shortages, to promote the event itself. Beyond this, we also had amplifying hashtags, so hashtags that are related to the topic that have quite a great deal of reach. So we have used those hashtags as well in the posts. So also we had to think about the audience on site and online. So in terms of social media promotion, what kind of audience we had to target. So in this sense, we targeted mainly social partners, employers, job seekers as well. So this was mainly our target audience. Then in terms of to get the attention of people to follow online, we sent an email marketing to stakeholders and subscribers to employment and labor market and social partners. So this was mainly done by Eurofound. Also in our list, we included members of the management, the stakeholder group from Ella, and other social partners that we usually deal with. So we also had to prepare the communication plan. Then we also had to prepare the event decoration. We have to decide how many banners. So we, as there are two agencies, we had to bring exactly the same number, both of us. So we agreed each one of bringing one roll up. And there was also the decision not to bring flags, for example. So also we had to prepare a press conference in order to amplify as much as possible the event itself and the content of the event. So as also we understood that the media had interest on this topic of labor shortages and jobs in demand mainly. So we had to decide also if we would do the press conference together or separated, and in the end we decided to do the ELDA decided to do a press conference, and Eurofound decided to follow up when they're on press media without any conference. Then we also had to prepare the social media promotion for before, during, and after, and we also had some paid promotion. We also had to prepare the web pages of the report, both in Eurofound and Ella. So Eurofound is for its own publication published a web page, and we published also the report in the Ella website. The web pages of the event, so also this had to be prepared because we had to draw the attention of people for the agenda, for the activities in the event and everything around it. We also drafted articles and published about the event in both newsletters. So there was quite a great deal of activities to promote the event just before. Actually, this promotion started more or less 1 month before. And we also had to deal with the report publication itself. So the report is a publication that had to be done by graphic designers. There were quite a lot of rounds of feedback until the publication was finally publishable. Then we had to promote the publication in the session using, for example, a publication promotional info sheet. Then we also had to prepare the speech of the main intervention speakers. So we had, for example, the executive director speech, and we had to prepare the briefings for everything that is critical in the event, which is the moderator, for example, the photos and the video that we developed. So this is in a nutshell the communication activities and communication plan involved to promote the event. So I just brought here some examples of the posts that we did before the event. So it was really pushing forward the question of the labor shortages, because we found out that this is the more important that really the surpluses. So it's more the topic is more relevant for target audiences. So, and we invested about 2,000 euros to get the online audience. So when you are trying to reach out for the public, if you go for organic posts, so non-paid posts, it's difficult to reach in such short notice such big audience. So we had to invest a bit of money in order to promote the session. And as I said, the campaign only started less than 1 month before, and it's intensified 2 weeks before. And in the end, it paid well, because we had around 200 attendees online and 50 on site. So the investment paid off. Not only the reach that we had, but we don't have yet numbers to about the reach outside the room and outside the session itself. During the event, we had to really be we had to prepare a few other things, like, for example, running PPT. This running PPT had to include all the presentations and the moderator intervention. So it's a running PPT that had to be agreed with also Eurofound. We had to prepare the venue with where to put the roll-ups, where to put this and that. So it had to be planned in advance. Then we had another side event, which was the press conference. So for the press conference preparation, we had to send out invitations, manage the confirmations, and also managed with Ernst & Young the technical setup. Then we had also to prepare a press kit for the press. We had to prepare a press briefing for the executive director with defensive, so in order for him to reply to any questions that would not be related to the topic of the conference. We had to also make a press statement for him, so to open the conference. In this case, the press conference, the press statement in the conference was a more digestible version of the speech, of the opening speech. So it could not be exactly the same because it's the press. So you have to highlight some keywords, you have to highlight some more mediatic kind of speech and put it bluntly, what we called in journalism sound bites. So you have to really focus on that, on the statement. Then we had also these keywords was also in the moderator's briefing. So the moderating is a critical figure in any event. So if the event is well planned, but the moderator is not good, the event will be facing a big challenge in terms of being well run and engaging and interesting for the audience. So in that sense, the moderator plays a very important role, and we have to focus really on the preparation of the moderator and in his briefing. Then we also had to prepare the social media promotion and management during the event. So we had mainly posts stating that the event was taking place on that day. And in that sense, also we had the Q&A. So we opened the Q&A through Twitter, although we had very little reactions to during the event itself, mainly from third country nationals asking questions regarding employment in Europe. Then we had to prepare the opening speeches, and we also had to brief the photo and the video team on site in order to prepare the post-event communication. So after the event, we focused on the follow-up of the event. So we had to prepare a package of presentations, the video, the photos of the event, and also to thank to the speakers and to the teams involved. This took place immediately after the event. Then we also had to do some follow-up with the press to see how many news and who was really interested. And so far, we curiously, we had 2 journalists in the press conference, one from Euractiv, another one from a Slovakian TV. And they haven't published anything at all. We have seen publications from other media outlets that were just following online the event. Then we also had some social media promotion, still having some social media promotion about the report itself. So we took highlights of the session on specific topics, specific angles that were more interesting for the public. So we have been publishing posts about the report. So I just give you here some examples. You have examples from us and from Eurofound, so you can see the different kind of posts. Our posts, for example, for EURES focus more on topics, and the posts from Eurofound focus more on quotes from the researchers that did the publication. Then after the event, one very important activity is to monitor the results on social media and to get some lessons learned in order for us to prepare future events like this. So this is all from our side. So thank you very much. So any questions, I think it will be sent out after. And we would like very much to say goodbye and wish you a very good session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, Irene, I will start today with a very bare-bone question. Why is the European Labour Authority doing this report?
Yes, I have prepared a few slides for that. Yes, so let me start with, when there are discussions about shortages, it's often about skills shortages. What we are discussing in the report goes actually beyond this concept. We are talking about labor shortages and surpluses, where skills is one part of it, but it also can have other reasons, notably spatial, location, and we'll get back to that a minute later. So why are we doing this report? In 2021, ELA has become the European Coordination Office of the EURES network, which was transitioned from the European Commission to the European Labour Authority. And with that comes the legal mandate to regularly provide data and information about labour shortages and surpluses. And the regulation also gives us some hints where there should be a specific focus, notably as regards also not only identifying shortages and surpluses, but also looking at what does it mean, who are the most vulnerable groups or regions that are affected, and as said, that is what we are trying to fulfill. As has already been mentioned in the introduction, that's not the first report, it's the 5th in a series, where the first editions have been organized by the European Commission, and this is now the first one which was completely under the remit and mandate of ELA. And what is the main objective of that report is, as also already was mentioned, it's identifying across Europe where are the shortages, where are the surpluses, and also giving some indication of how severe they are, so some level of magnitude. And in this year's report, we want you to go a little bit beyond that by giving it something of a context, so also to explore why are the shortages and the surpluses occurring. And the main input source for that that report is contributions of the national coordination offices of the EURES network, who are drawing mainly from administrative data from public employment services, but also beyond that. And we added for this contextualization part also some qualitative elements like a quite big literature review and focus group interviews, and all of that was brought together by very diligent contractors that have been compiling that report.
And Irene, if I may ask, what did you find? Are there more shortages or surpluses currently in Europe?
Yes,
as we speak?
we found both. So as Cosmin already hinted to, the study covered 29 countries, and in all 29 countries, shortages were identified. You see that here on the one side of the graph. There are differences between Europe. So notably, northern countries have identified a higher number of shortages occupations, with some exceptions. So we see here Italy, for example, as one of the countries with the highest number of identified shortages. But in principle, you could say that there is some differences between the north and the south of Europe. We also looked a little bit, not comprehensively, of regions within a country, and here the kind of default finding was that capital regions seem to have less labor market imbalances than more disadvantaged regions. And interestingly, the disadvantaged regions that are suffering most from the imbalances, they seem to differ from, again, the region where the countries are. So in countries in the north, the disadvantaged regions are in the north. The countries in the south, the more struggling are in the south. In the east, it's the east. In the west, it's the west. So there is some tendency of the shortages being more on the periphery of the countries. In contrast to that, there are also surpluses. So in spite of this tightening situation of workers being high in demand, there are also 24 out of the 29 countries that identified that there are shortages. Again, we see some variation in the countries, but in contrast to the surpluses, here we could not really find so much of a pattern.
I see. And Irene, is it possible to specifically identify which are the shortage and surplus occupations currently?
Yes, again, as was already hinted to, the main areas where shortages were identified are in the construction sector, in IT, software development areas, in healthcare, and those have been in these 5 editions of the report quite structurally, so they appear year and year again. What is a new finding in this report is that we have this year identified a larger number of occupations in hospitality sector, which I guess would be related to the fact that after the COVID pandemic, tourism is picking up again, and there is more need for waiters and other occupations in that area. You will find in the report lists of the most common and the most severe shortages and surpluses. You have here a snapshot of the top 10, and here, as you say, you can see that in the shortages that's largely dominated, notably by construction, while surpluses are, for example, more in humanities or clerical areas.
I see.
And we also, because you can imagine that's a lot of information that you will find here in the report, we thought to help digest this information a little bit more. Another new feature that we're introducing this year is you will not only find a link to the report when you go to the QR code that you have been sent, but we also introduce what we call a dashboard, which for the time being is an Excel file that you can download, but it's a bit of an interactive Excel file, so you can filter here whether you're interested in shortages or in surpluses, whether you're interested by countries or by occupation, and then you find a data visualization which gives you the information that you are looking for. And we hope that, as said, for the time being it's an Excel file, that in the next month we can work here also on a web application that makes it look nicer and being more user-friendly.
So users can already download this Excel file at the EURES website, correct?
Indeed, yes.
Great. Irene, both ELA and EURES have a specific focus on facilitating cross-border mobility. Can the information you have collected through this report contribute to this?
Yes, it can. So that was one of our intentions. Also, as I mentioned, we're looking at labor shortages. So also there, one point could be that the relevant skills are available, but not at the place that they are needed. And that could be within a country or across borders. So we were particularly looking at those shortages in a specific occupation that were identified in at least one country, where there was at least one other country where there is a surplus in the same occupation. And when we did this matching, and again you will find a big table on that in the annex of the report, we identified that there would be about 300 of such cross-border matching possibilities. And they are, of course, a little bit theoretical, because there are also some issues, some challenges of making this cross-border mobility happen. But our assumption would be that particularly in border regions, so geographic closeness, or in countries where culture is close, where language is close, there would be a good potential for this cross-border matching. And to build upon this dashboard, one of the tabs in this Excel file also gives you some filter possibilities for this cross-border matching. So again, you can search for a specific occupation. I think in this example it's about accountants, and automatically you will see the countries where this occupation was identified as a shortage, and next to it those countries where it has been identified as a surplus, and that could give a good hint where labor mobility might be able to be encouraged to counteract or to mitigate these imbalances that we find.
Thank you, Irene. In his introduction, ELA's Executive Director, Mr. Boyanju, already touched upon the profiles of workers impacted by market imbalances. Could you narrate in more on this and give us more details?
Yes, with pleasure. So as already mentioned, one of the striking features is the gender aspect, and again, this is not a new finding. Also, the previous versions of the report already found that, meaning that if you compare the female rate in employment overall with the female employment rate in the shortages and the surplus occupations, you find that women are overrepresented in surpluses and underrepresented in shortages, which from a labor market perspective gives them a higher potential to become unemployed or to find a job when they want to re-enter the labor market. So that means that in spite of a lot of action and initiatives already taking place to counteract stereotypes in occupational choices, there might be more room for acting on that. What we also looked at is at the age dimension, and here we found that there are a large number of shortages occupation which have a comparatively low share of young workers. And that means if particularly these shortages have been identified to be structural, so to have been there for a couple of years, meaning they might also be there in the future, this is likely to aggravate if the current workforce goes to retirement and we don't have enough young worker to feed into that. Another aspect that was already briefly touched upon is the education level. Here normally, or the intuitive answer would be the higher skilled, the better educated people are, the higher is the employability, and the less the risk is that they won't find a job. And we see that for some occupations, for some jobs. So here comes also the point that Mr. Korte meant, there is no one size fits all. While for other occupations, again, notably humanities, for example, even a tertiary education is not a guarantee that you will find a job. What is also an important finding in this report, as well as in previous editions, is that many of the shortages occupations are dominated by medium level of skills. So those are those type of occupations, notably in the craft sectors, where vocational training in the companies, for example, like apprenticeships, play a big role.
I see. And it was mentioned that this year the report includes a new feature, indeed, and this is the exploration about the drivers of shortages and surpluses. What did you find?
Yes, so here to start with a disclaimer, we don't claim to be comprehensive in this analysis. We just started this exploration, and we want to continue with this type of analysis and investigations in the future. But we found here that it's actually a variety of different factors, and that we would need to consider both the supply and the demand side. So both employers' needs as well as the workers' needs and characteristics are to be considered. But for both of the sides, you see here a variety of different elements. So to start with, one of the reasons is structural change in the economy, in the labor market. We all know we are going more and more into the direction of a service-oriented economy. That makes a change. Somewhat related to that is also the transition to digitalization, climate neutral economy, which brings about different needs for skills, but also at the place where they are needed. I think all of us experienced remote work options being on the run, so that gives also a different spatial dimension to supply and demand on the labor market, but also other mega trends, like, for example, the aging society. And what, as to this regard, I found, for example, quite interesting in the report, I did not have that on my radar, that the construction sector is, for example, affected both in supply and demand because of the aging society. So on the one hand, companies need to change how they are building and what they are building to make it accessible for an older society. But at the same time, the construction sector is one of those where the share of young workers is comparatively low. So if already now we have this gap of the workers, if then additional a good number of them goes to retirement, that will not become easier. Then we also have elements here that are related to employment and working conditions that Director Calvin has already mentioned upon. So also this we see, and also related to that is then the element of the individual preferences or characteristics of the workers as well as the companies to where they want to work, how they want to work, or with whom they would want to work as regards the employers.
Well, thank you so much, Irene, for this overview of the report.
Hi, and welcome to our presentation today, the Customer Center Digital and how we organize a web tutorial. This presentation is based on a web tutorial that we held in March this year, working in the ICT sector. My name is Vera, and my colleague Zainab is behind the camera. So, both of us hope that you enjoy our presentation today. So here's what we will discuss today. First of all, I will tell you a little bit more about the Customer Center Digital and what it is that we do. Then we will go into detail about our web tutorials and show you the steps how to organize or how we organize a web tutorial. And last but not least, we will show you a few facts and figures about the web tutorial we held in March. By the way, the software behind me that you see is our software EduDib, with which we also do our web tutorials. So this is what it would look like without me standing in front of it. The Customer Center Digital is a team belonging to the Customer Center in general, and we focus on the web tutorials, but we also have other online activity, social media, for example, a newsletter, and so on. But the focus today will be our web tutorials. For the web tutorials, we have different topics, for example, visa, the recognition process, or our industry-specific web tutorials for ICT or healthcare, hotel and gastronomy, and so on. You can register for all our web tutorials, which are 56 throughout the year, on our landing page, which looks like that. And here's the link zav.de/webtutorial. Following this link, you can choose the web tutorial you want to sign up for, and then the whole registration process is done through EduDip, our software, so we don't have to do anything about the registration process. And this is what a registration would look like. We customize this landing page for each individual web tutorial, and we choose the categories, which data we want to collect from our prospective candidates. EduDip also offers the possibility to send automated emails once a client or a customer registers for a specific event. And then we send out a confirmation email after the registration. We also send out, or EduDip also sends out reminders 1 week before the event and 1 day before the event. So if they sign up and forget all about it, so that they will be reminded of the upcoming event. After the event, there was also an email thanking them for the participation. And we asked to send them any further questions, or if they're interested to work in Germany, we asked them to send their CV. We also have marketing campaigns on social media for our events. This is what an ad would look like for the IT or ICT workshop. We have the possibility to post on LinkedIn, as we have our own page on LinkedIn. So we have organic and sponsored posts on LinkedIn. And on Facebook, we use the page of the Federal Employment Agency. And we don't post organically. We only use it for marketing, marketing campaigns, which means we only have sponsored posts. Unfortunately, we haven't done the monitoring for March, so we don't have the impressions and click numbers for Facebook, but yeah, I think the numbers are quite impressive anyway. And we also advertise our events on the EURES website. All of our events can be found in the calendar there, and also on the website of the federal of the government in Germany. Make It in Germany also publishes our events, so we try to get as much attention as possible for our events. And here is the course of action, so to speak, for the specific web tutorial ICT. We start out with the first part, or no, at the very beginning we start with a short introductory video, nice and easy to get them started. And then we start with the first part, short intro, about Germany, about the German labor market in general, about living in Germany in general. And then we go on with the second part, telling them more about what it's like to work in ICT, showing a few job profiles, the specific requirements for these job profiles, such as language skills, for example, work experience, and so on. We also have the numbers for this web tutorial in March. We had 1,000 registrations for our morning event. And as we reached that number quite early, and 1,000 is the maximum, we also decided to have a second event in the afternoon, for which we also had around 800 or 900 registrations. You can see there's quite a gap between the number of registered candidates and the participants in the end, but still we're very happy about that large number. Our goal with the web tutorials is to generate emails, to have candidates send their CVs so we can add them to our candidate pool. And in the week of the event was held on a Wednesday, so the whole week we received 136 emails with CVs of people working in the ICT sector. This number is a little, you have to put that into perspective, as we only looked at the week where the event was held. Of course, we receive emails before that and after that, as they get the emails from EduDib asking them to send their CV before and after as well. EduDib also offers us the possibility to have a survey after an event, which we gladly use because we try to improve ourselves, of course. So first of all, we asked the participants where they found out about our web tutorials, which is very important, so we can see which channel we can use for which group, for example. So that is very helpful for us. And then we also asked them if they have visited a web tutorial before. And as you can see, we have a few frequent flyers who already joined us more than 3 times. So I guess they must really like it. And we also asked them, of course, this is a little ego boost, whether they enjoyed the web tutorial. Mostly that is a very positive answer here, so we know that we're doing something right. And we also asked them what day would be the best for them to have a web tutorial. At the moment, we do it on Wednesdays, but we are thinking about changing that to a Friday, or at least have a few tests to do it on a Friday, as this answer is quite common in every event, that they prefer the Friday for such presentations. So yeah, we will see where we go from here with these answers. We try to get as much feedback as possible from the participants so that we can improve in the course of time. I hope you enjoyed our presentation. Thank you very much for listening. And yeah, you can ask your questions in the chat, which we of course have also in EduDib. Let me show you. Just one last feature, which is very nice, as participants frequently ask questions here, and we have a very nice interaction on this platform. So yeah, once again, thank you very much, and bye-bye.
Hello, everyone. I'm Margarida from Portugal. As you can see, I'm here in Lisbon.
And I am Eva from Spain. I live in the south, and in my town there is a huge production of olive oil.
And we're actually part of Seize the Summer organizing team for a couple of years now, since 2017. And we will tell you a little bit about the latest facts about this event, which is already going on for 6 editions, as mentioned.
So we have been asked to give you an overview of the event, the way it's organized as a transnational event, and we will do so, and we will give you an overview of the origins of the event, how did it came to life, and the evolution, the main highlights, some figures for the last edition, which are quite interesting, and the way we coordinate to promote the event at European level, and probably the next challenges we're going to have face or cope with from now on. And in that sense, we would also like to have your feedback and ideas, of course.
Let's go to the origins of it. Probably you remember some of these ideas, because it's not the first time we introduce you with this event. Actually, the first edition of Seize the Summer, and it had no Seize the Summer EURES yet, was actually organized by Croatia only in 2015. But then in 2017, we decided to gather. We realized that we had some common needs, a few countries. So we started by gathering Portugal, Spain, Croatia, and Slovenia as, let's say, the core team. But we didn't want to do it all by ourselves. We knew there were other countries facing the same recruitment needs we had within tourism in Southern Europe. So we invited a few more countries to join us. In 2017, besides these 4, we had Italy, Greece, Malta, and Cyprus. And then in 2018, we also invited France to join us. And since then, we had 4 editions up until 2020. Then we had a little stop due to the pandemics. There were not so many tourist jobs in 2020. We recovered the event in 2022, last year, and we had recently the 6th edition on 9th March 2023. So basically, as I was saying, Southern Europe countries decided together, trying to contradict a little bit the idea that we were only outgoing countries. Indeed, we faced since 2015, 2016, a huge increase in the needs to recruit for the tourism sector because the economy started to progress, and some of our countries have a GDP, depending on tourism, it goes up to nearly 20% of our GDP based on tourism. So it's really a very critical need that we have to our economy. Actually, we were having employers facing a recruitment needs in the most touristy areas in all of these countries, by then mostly in the coastline, needing staff with different levels of expertise and language skills as well, because of course our tourists are mainly coming from other European countries. And we were looking mostly for young people. Of course, we are aware that we are not as competitive in terms of wage levels and so on, but we have other things we can offer. And so we try to attract as well people who would like to go through an experience in southern countries during a time which is usually great in these countries. So we try to attract young people, recent graduates who are willing to move for a couple of months to have this experience. And also, this could be an opportunity for experienced professionals who are willing to make a further move in their international career. So the concept, just going back a little, it's definitely focused on the tourism cluster, including here hospitality and catering, entertainment activities, adventure, outdoor activities as well, customer service related to traveling. So this is basically the sectors we try to cover. It is an event which is focused only on an online format because, of course, we are gathering 9 countries. It would be impossible for us to gather all at once in one place to promote the event. And actually, we are trying to target people from all over Europe. Usually it takes place in February or early March, also due to the season timeline for most of our employers. 9 countries involved, as mentioned. So Croatia, Slovenia, Portugal, Spain, Italy, Greece, Cyprus, Malta, and France. We are focusing on promoting as much as possible jobs and traineeships with certain quality standards. We try to be a bit selective on this when approaching employers. It's mostly seasonal opportunities, but sometimes we also have opportunities which go a bit beyond 6 months as well. Another important idea in this concept and the way we organize the event is that each country is responsible for dealing with its own employers. So they will be responsible for inviting them, for supporting them in preparing their participation, if needed, for promoting their jobs as well and posting them on the platform in some cases, to keep up with the employers also in perspective of supporting them with organizing interviews, and of course with a follow-up with the employer with a view to having an idea on what happened and the feedback we get from employers in terms of eventual matching the satisfaction levels that they get. Also, in terms of program, we try to stick, even though sometimes it's a bit difficult, but we try to stick to a program which is going no longer than 6 hours at the most, but this already including breaks, because the program we have to need some breathing periods, and we also need to promote the contact with the employers on the chat and with the exhibitors. So it could go up to 5-6 hours duration, but with several breaks, 15-20 minute breaks in between, and also a longer lunch break. And it is made usually of country presentations, which cover a little bit on the situation of the tourism cluster in each country, living and working information, and as well giving an overview of the companies and the opportunities which are being promoted for that country. Up until 2020, it was pre-recorded. Since 2022, we are having the event live completely, so live streamed. And actually, we believe it is more engaging to have have the presentations directly and interacting with the job seekers live when compared to a pre-recorded presentation. So we still prefer this concept. Actually, having into account that we have 9 countries involved, usually 50 to 60 EURES advisors or EURES team members in all of these countries, coordination is definitely key. So we really need, during the whole preparation, several coordination meetings, clear task splitting. Sometimes we have minor teams which take care of the program, of the communication, and so on. So in the last years, of course, just giving you here some ideas on what happened throughout the year since 2017. Definitely, we had to deal with new functionalities arising every year. As you know, the European Online Job Days platform has been evolving quite a lot in the last few years. And many of the improvements which have been introduced are as well a contribution from our teams. I'm pretty sure not only us, also you who organize your events, but in case of Seize the Summer, we have definitely come up with several needs that we felt, also because we needed to coordinate a lot. And there were several new tools which were introduced as well due to our contributions. And also in terms of promotion, definitely throughout the years, there has been an increasing role of social media, video teasers that we had to produce ourselves, of course, with the support of EURES. Another thing which is characteristic of this particular event, since we usually have a big number of employers, it would be impossible to ask them all to participate in the program with the presentation. Usually we have more than 100 exhibitors. So we have alternatively proposed the employers to have appealing profiles where they include short videos, where they include images, and also the idea of the carousel, which is now showing up in each stand, each exhibitor stand, is also an idea which came up with the successive events we have organized, because this way you can adjust to the exhibitors' possibilities in terms of image and video materials, and you can also diversify the type of contents that you are sharing about your company. We also introduced the idea of a welcome desk, having an event organized by 9 countries where the need to contact different exhibitors might be a bit confusing for the job seekers. We felt the need to have kind of an info point, a welcoming info point where people could go and ask how should they participate, how should they engage in the event. And this is also the reason why the welcome desk as a solution has come up in the European Job Days platform in the meantime, independently. It's not as a regular exhibitor, but with a proper functionality. We also had to deal with the change of the different video chatting tools. Now we are having Jitsi, and of course there is one good thing, which is Jitsi is showing up embedded in the platform, and we are doing the best we can with this tool, so providing one-on-one advice in the stands, and also for the employers' interviews. Also, something we have decided at a certain point, and it was actually last year, was to add some days after the event, since the slots for interviews, we could not adjust the duration of the slots, and this would provide a very limited number of slots for interviews during the event day. We have decided to add a few days after the event in order to allow employers to still have interviews with a few more job seekers after the open day event. We also introduced prep webinars in the last few years. Since we are 9 very different countries with different sizes, different numbers of employers engaged in the event, some countries actually organize their own webinars for employers, sometimes more than once on the pathway to the event. For instance, I give you the example of Italy. They have done it more than once during this year's edition. And then we usually have at least one webinar in English for all of the employers. So we are doing it, and we eventually will evolve as well to have more activities to prepare job seekers as well. Then again, we already mentioned, since last year we are live streaming the program, and this year we have introduced as well some content diversification. We thought, well, maybe only presentations about the countries is maybe a bit monotonous, so let's introduce some panels with discussions, with testimonials, and this has worked quite well this year. It has been quite welcomed by the job seekers and even by colleagues. And it gives a more human flavor of what this experience can be. So if you have a testimonial by job seekers who have gone through the experience of a summer job probably more than once throughout their careers, if you have an approach of a school, a hotel school, or an employer who's recruiting, it definitely will bring some flavor to the discussion in the program. Something which changed as well and allows us to have a bit more feedback at an earlier stage regarding the event is the changes in the evaluation surveys on the platform, which are now being sent immediately after the event has happened. This in an automatic basis. We believe this has considerably increased the feedback we get from both job seekers and employers, and we hope this will keep on doing so in the future and improving in the future as well.
And if you would like to have a broad idea of the evolution of the event, here we bring some figures. As you see, the trend in all variables has been positive. Steadily positive, I would say. The participation of companies has improved along the years, even though we had probably a little bigger participation rate in the previous year. But it is also true that we also want every country, as we mentioned, every country is responsible for the participation and the management of their own employers in the event. It was also true that in the previous edition there were more employers without vacancies registered or a poorer profile, so that we also try to keep an eye on quality on the side of employers' presentation for this event, not only in the number of employers in itself, but also in the sort of presence and the sort of information they provide job seekers about their needs and their job profiles and everything. So it is, in any case, really, really similar. 171, 168, it's more or less the same. And the number of vacancies has also improved along the years in a steady way. And what we found surprising in this edition is the number of unique applicants for jobs. I remember last year we had also this short participation in a webinar talking about our experience organizing transnational events, and we mentioned that it was strange that there were so many job seekers registered and so few applicants. And in this year, the figure has really surprised us because it was not really consistent with the evolution of the event, and the number has skyrocketed, like doubling the previous unique applicants we've ever had in the event since 2017. So this has been surprising, and we would like to dig a little bit deeper into the figure and see even whether it really crosses with the participation of non-European citizens, or maybe it was just that job seekers were more active. And in that sense, that means that all our efforts to inform them and to say, do this, do that, bear in mind, take a check the new vacancies coming in the platform every week. You should prepare yourself for this event in advance, and so on and so on and so on. Even in the messages that we prepare for job seekers as newsletters, then it would probably mean that we've succeeded somehow. Well, I wish to think so. And then the number of interviews agreed between employers and job seekers has also increased a lot. We really don't know how many of these took place, actually, because many of them could have taken place outside the platform. That's also true. When you give the freedom to employers and job seekers to say you have one more week in order to have your job interviews, then they can agree on a different method, not Jitsi, but maybe meet in Skype or Teams or whatever. So there is no way to know exactly how many interviews have been taking place. But the interviews agreed in principle, where the number was really great. I mean, the best in all this year. So we were pretty satisfied with it. And then some other figures and variables were the number of job seekers registered. That has increased a lot, even though considering, of course, we know we also have these non-national job seekers registered in the platform. They usually take part in every event quite actively. But the thing is, there were a lot of non-European citizens in the platform before also. And this year we have a bigger number of participants in general. Not only the number of non-third nationals are bigger, but those from Europe also. So as the positions, as you can see, that they have increased, even though the number of employers were a little bit lower, but just 2 or 3 lower. It's now meaningful. But the thing is, I always say you shouldn't really pay attention to this long bar with 10,000 positions, because they are not real, in the sense that we didn't take care of all the employers that said they were longing to hire 500 lifeguards. For instance, I don't know if they really need 500 lifeguards for the whole season. Probably they do, but it is not realistic trying to say that you're ready to hire them through this event. That is not the case. And when you have 4 or 5 or 6 employers saying they need 500 entertainers or 500 lifeguards, then all your figures go completely distorted. So in the next editions, we try to correct this a little bit. And when they said 300, we just said, okay, maybe 50 would be enough. Because otherwise, all the rest of the indicators go a little bit biased by the fact that you are having so many positions, and it looks like you don't really have enough job seekers for all these positions. And that is not really the case. So you really have to correct that a little bit in order to have more realistic stat info about your event. And the name of applications, as we say, and unique applicants has increased a lot. We are still wondering why, and we will try and take a closer look to this figure and see whether it was a promotion or insistence on the newsletter. You should try to plan and to form your own strategy approaching employers or creating your CV and checking new vacancies and so on. Or maybe it's just been by chance and we really don't know. We should try to take a closer look to the job seekers profile in order to get to know them better.
Okay, just a few more figures, numbers. Well, I won't go through all of these. You can find here in detail how many exhibitors each country had and jobs and vacant positions. It's not so important. We will share these data afterwards. But you can have a look at the main occupations which were promoted during the event. So as you can probably expect, mostly within hospitality and catering, definitely chefs, chef partie, commis chef, every occupation related to gastronomy, to restaurant management as well, waiters, bartenders, hotel receptionists as well, a lot of night auditors, which are difficult to fill positions for obvious reasons. Definitely entertainers. This is the occupation by which these events have started. It was the main occupation which gave rise to this event in the very beginning, which is a very specific target audience. Also, customer service has increased quite a lot after the first edition. So this was not the main focus of the event, but we have noticed that many of our employers looking for specific language skills profiles were having projects within traveling related, within tourism. And we could mention a lot of companies who are working in booking, both flights, hotels, apartments, etc. So there is a lot of work related to travel and to tourism within customer service. And this is why they started to show up in big numbers as well. But we have more. So for instance, photographers. There are some countries which are very much recruiting photographers on a regular basis. Lifeguards, pool vigilance, also spa therapists, for instance. A little bit less qualified, so room service, housekeeping, but also maintenance workers with different profiles, with more polyvalent profiles or a little bit more specialized. You could have electricians, you could have carpenters and so on, and plumbers, etc. So this is the type of occupations you would find during the event, the type of opportunities. Regarding the participants this year, a few more numbers. You can find here the data by country of residence. So it's the top 12, more or less, I believe, by country of residence and by nationality. And probably it won't be a surprise for you that other comes up as the second position. So other was the country with the second largest number of participants. And of course, when we mention other, we mean third country nationals, namely. So we had a lot of people from Spain, really thanks to Eva and team's promotional work in Spain, and then third country nationals. And we'd also like to stress that a few other countries who were not in the team organizing the event, namely, for instance, Finland, Romania, Poland, Ireland, Hungary, we had an interesting number of participants in the event, and Belgium as well. So we thank you for the work you've done in terms of promotion, but we would like to highlight a little bit what is happening with these numbers of third country nationals. Now we have some data in the platform as well regarding the nationality of these third country nationals. And we are simply giving you here some data. And as you can see, in terms of nationality, the countries which come up more often are the ones who we would probably be expecting. So India, actually the most populous country in the world, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Morocco, Nepal, Philippines, Bangladesh. We also have a big number of participants who, even though they have other nationality, it's not showing up because they're probably old users of the platform, so they have not identified their nationality by then. But as you can see, many of these countries namely India at least, and Morocco as well. These are some of the countries with which the European Union is also negotiating bilateral partnerships in terms of migration. So it's also interesting to understand what are the trends, and even though it's not within your scope to deal with these citizens, maybe trying to keep an eye on what's happening and what will be the next steps probably. An important note as well is that among these 741 third country nationals, just for you to have an idea, over 31% of these people were already living in a EU country. Okay, so this means that probably some of them are already long-term residents, so they also may benefit from free movement at a certain point. So this is also something we should pay attention to, because probably with time this will evolve in that direction as well. Some other figures. So we already mentioned the number of job seekers registered. As a whole, it was really high compared to the previous editions. And the other thing is that even though it was still very significant, the percentage of third country nationals was maybe a bit lower than in, for instance, the 2020 edition. So it was a bit lower than 30%. Something we still note is that there is still a big gap between the number of people who are registered for the event and the people who have a CV uploaded on the platform. This is something, there's a margin for improvement here. Eva already mentioned the significant increase in the number of applications and unique applicants. We would just need to understand a bit better, but we believe, according to what we see in the platform, that unfortunately or not, this number has increased quite a lot as well, due to the proactivity of third country nationals applying to every possible opportunity they find. So this is something which deserves as well a little bit of our attention regarding the engagement of EU job seekers within the event. And these numbers, Eva already went through them somehow. As you can see, regarding the number of interviews which actually used Jitsi, it's not as big as we would like to. And these two reinforce what Eva was saying. Employers still prefer to use other channels and use their own platforms such as Skype, Teams, Google Meet, etc. Some other numbers which are interesting to highlight were the numbers of page views in the platform for the event. Nearly 180,000 page views for the event, so in the 2 weeks before the event started. And actually, as far as we were told by EURES, actually I think we beat a little record regarding the number of unique viewers for the program this year. So we went over 1,000 unique viewers going through our program. Also sharing with you some of the data we already have regarding the satisfaction rates after we have sent the evaluation surveys. As you can see, regarding job seekers, so far we have 115 answers, and on average, on a scale of 1 to 10, it was nearly 7 out of 10, the level of satisfaction job seekers found right after the event. As for the employers, it's a bit much lower the number of answers, but of course, the number of employers is also much lower than job seekers, of course. And the satisfaction rate, of course, we know employers are usually a little bit more diplomatic. Still, I think it's a very nice rate, having 7.5 out of 10 when you ask them how helpful the event was in supporting them to find suitable candidates. So these are the data so far, and I would pass on to Vera. Eva.
Yes, regarding the promotion of the event, we have to take into consideration that there's such a big event. We have to coordinate among all countries really well, not to overdo it, because the risk of overdoing, I think, is exactly as dangerous as not doing enough. So first of all, we take advantage of what EURES has to offer. And in this year, we also coordinated ourselves and created a single calendar, as you see, since we know that EURES is publishing things about our events in the media 2 weeks before the event, 2 days before, and the morning that it's going to be taking place. So we distributed other dates, like saying, okay, these ones are the best ones probably to post in your own social media, something regarding our event. It is also the case that this period is quite not so busy as the spring season probably, but quite busy with events. And for instance, in our case, it was hard to keep the balance between previous events that were taking place in which Spain was a sort of a main character, and this is the summer. Because if you do it a little bit too much, I mean, to overload your timelines in the social media regarding too many events and repeat them consistently, it doesn't really mean that there are going to be a better effect on the job seekers or the citizenship in general. So you really have to think about when is the right time and probably not overdoing it too much. So coordination among all of us and with EURES is of essence. Also, we created this, I said we usually take advantage of everything EURES has to offer, so we try to make the best of it. And they also offer us the possibility to create a Facebook event and to make us all co-organizer in that Facebook event in the EURES job profile. So we were all co-managers of this event. I mean, all the countries involved. As you see, this is an EURES event with EURES Greece and 7 other people, which are actually 7 other countries that were authorized to publish news or announcements or whatever they like to publish in the Facebook event. And we also have, but because Anna said, thanks to the good work of Eva and so on, there were a lot of participants from Spain. Well, it is not what I do. Actually, it is the way we work as a country and as a network, because of course I can inform my colleagues, but they are the ones promoting the event to every single job center or youth counseling service or university in their own territory. So the most effective way to do so is to cooperate as a PES and disseminate information to all possible levels. That's what we usually do. It is not only social media, the ones that are really protagonists here, but to do it all in a coordinated way usually works. So yeah, of course we obtain results, but yeah, the effort is a collective one. It is not just because you post something in Twitter that the miracle is going to happen. It doesn't work like that. But the thing is, for instance, when we publish something in our EURES accounts, just for instance, in this case, this Twitter, then it is replicated and promoted also from the EURES, from the Twitter accounts of the PES, of the regional PES. And this is an example of how the government of the Canary Islands promoted the event, respecting, of course, the institutional the banner, the one created for the event, which is really good in terms of coherence, to offer a unique visual image for EURES and for this event is really important when there are so many people involved. In this case, they were a little bit more creative. We don't really care about that. But Europe Direct in Spain were also actively promoting and disseminating this information. If they had respected the banner, it would have been better probably, but yeah, we are not dealing with that now. I think it is good that they're also creative. But not only Europe Direct in Spain, but also Europe Direct in many places in Italy were doing it at the same time. It is the multiplier effect, the one that counts regarding social media. Not that you post on the right time and on the suitable days, but also that it's replicated and multiplied by many other stakeholders regarding mobility, youth, and employment. And also, we'd like to thank really dearly our colleagues from other countries in Europe that were not directly involved in the event, were not co-organizers, and still did a good job promoting the event among their job seekers. And that is why we have an important number of participants coming from countries that are not really co-organizers or directly involved in the event. So they did a good job promoting it, and we really thank them a lot. This is, for instance, the video we used to launch the event, and it was published in a TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, whenever they felt like it. Actually, it was thought in 2 different formats, vertical and horizontal, to use both in Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or whatever. And we will give you the link if you would like to take a look at it. And it was launched by all the participating country in the same day or in the same 2 days, let's say it like that. Yeah, it is not so important you keep a clock like, so it is not so important that you keep a certain date at a certain time. But the most important thing is that you are coordinated and you are aware that in this week, along these 2 weeks, maximum effort has to be done, and to try to respect the calendar as much as possible. That's it. So we have decided to close this presentation by dealing with some challenges and things we are still discussing, so nothing's clear yet, and probably to share it also with you so that you can maybe contribute with some ideas, some suggestions. We're open to them because sometimes we are a little bit at a loss regarding what to do next. And it is because the event is taking a dimension that it's making it a little bit complicated to manage, and we will tell you why. We have been receiving some petitions from other countries to participate in the Seize the Summer because they also have needs regarding the summer season and seasonal jobs from the tourism industry. And of course, we understand their needs. And of course, we want to answer positively to the petitions. But the thing is, we are internally discussing right now, all the countries co-organizing this event, what they felt about it, open it to other countries, all of Europe at once, or just some of them more motivated to share the event or to enter the event, or the ones dealing with vacancies which are more similar to the ones we deal with at Seize the Summer. And we are still discussing it. How should they join and in which term? And on the other hand, we've also discussed the fact that probably it is good to open the event in the sense that the more choices you offer a job seeker regarding a job day, the better for every country involved, probably. Because many countries are maybe afraid that they cannot compete with the other countries regarding working conditions or salary or in general. Yeah, of course, it's not the same. It's not the same salary. It's not the same conditions. Maybe they have to work less hours in a certain country. They get paid more and so on. But the thing is, I don't think job seekers from Europe longing to come to Portugal, Greece or Spain are looking better conditions than in Norway, Sweden or the Netherlands. They're looking for something different. And I think we are competing with different assets here.
With the emotional wage.
The emotional wage is definitely important. And the climate is also the weather, everything counts. But the thing is, of course, we are not competing at the same level. So I don't think we are really going to compete for the same profiles or the same job seekers. Job seekers are the ones who decide where they want to go after all. They have a profession or a profile that is in high demand. So they are the ones who choose. It is not you by offering them just one single choice or to organize one single EOGD regarding only this country. This is not the way to compete because they can also choose a different event in the platform. So I think the more choices they have, the better for everyone involved. That is my personal view, but we are discussing it. And of course, we have an expertise regarding this event because we have been dealing with it since 2017, and it's more or less the same teams, the same core teams organizing it. So every year gets a little bit easier because there are a lot of lessons learned on the way, and you can also rely on your own experience from previous events. So, and we are relaxed in our own capacities, but also we can rely on our colleagues that are also going to do a good job in their own countries. And that is all very, very important when there is such a huge transnational event with so many countries involved. And new members come in are still to be seen. How do they organize themselves? How are they going to catch up with all the experience we have sort of accumulated and so on? And that can also be a little bit tricky. And we've been also discussing the possibility to split the event into two different sectors, because it is true that we usually held it in February or March, as Anna said, but that was mainly because of entertainers, because of people interested in hiring entertainers. Many of them offer them a previous training course before starting to work for the summer season. And that course starts probably in April, May, and they have to have the chance to select or pre-select or recruit people much in advance than other profiles. Of course, a hotel, a camping site, or a resort probably knows how many people they're going to need as waiting staff, baristas, or cleaning staff, or whatever. They have this general idea, but they really need to contact entertainers much more in advance than those other profiles. So that is why we usually organize it in February. But well, we were thinking that maybe if we organize one event only for entertainers in February and then left hospitality, front desk agents and that sort of profiles for, I don't know, let's say May. I don't know. We're still,
You're very much ahead of the calendar.
Yes.
Our season starts in early April, so yeah.
Yeah. Well, early April is okay. Good for me.
Okay.
We are still on it. We're discussing it. It is an open discussion also for you if you want to participate.
This is also one of the reasons why we have to be cautious in the extension of countries, because we actually have different realities as well, as you could see, and also different opinions at a certain point. And I'm not in such a different position than Eva's, but there are other colleagues in different countries who may have a different position. So we really need to have a balance here, but also due to this issue about the calendar for the season, depending on the areas, we are also considering to launch a survey to employers who have already participated in this event, asking them for the most suitable dates or the most suitable timing for the event to take place. So we will try to find a balance in between splitting the event in two and maybe finding a timing which can serve most employers in a good way. We'll try to also to benchmark from other countries and other events which are taking place, eventually finding some more creative solutions as well. Then, of course, these are not exactly new challenges, but this engaging matchable job seekers is definitely a challenge which has become more visible after the pandemic. So in these last 2 years, even though the number of job seekers has increased significantly, even though the number of applicants to jobs has increased as well, we can still see a big difference between the number of people who register for the event and the number of people who definitely apply for jobs. And so there is still a margin for improvement in the work that we do with job seekers, either at the country level, these 9 countries which are involved in the organization, or also at the solutions we provide, the engagement that we can do with job seekers from all the countries who are registered for the event. So there are a few more things we can do, and we will try to think of them eventually, either through prep webinars or eventually a little bit engaging employers in an earlier stage, eventually in some areas trying to have more job seekers with the right profiles for the event as well. And it is always a challenge from the very beginning of the event, and it will keep on being so in the future, to keep up with employers, to have their feedback, to engage them in preparing their profile. This is definitely a point in our organization. This is something which is important for us, and it's of course also in their own interests, but we are very pushy regarding employers, regarding their level of participation, because it also depends on their level of engagement, the fact that we can attract as well and engage job seekers from the other end. So this is really very important for us. And as well, another point of attention for us in the future is the evaluation after the event, the follow-up with employers, the follow-up with job seekers, eventually trying to have as well materials, the recordings available a bit earlier than we do up to now, even though this does not depend on us directly, but we will try to keep on insisting on this point. And I don't know, Eva, I think we probably talked already for quite a long time.
More than enough.
More than enough.
So we're saying goodbye, but we will be in the room to answer your questions and to receive all your suggestions if you have any.
Yes, and we look forward to reading from you on the chat. And if you want to come back to us also with ideas regarding the events, its promotion, and eventually if you're one of the countries who have already shown an interest to participate, get back to us in the next couple of months, and maybe we will consider the possibility for you to join. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you for the attention. Bye.
Yes, apologies for the long. Okay, ciao ciao, bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you for your attention. The Q&A session will start in a minute. As a general rule, we kindly ask you to type your questions in the comments section, indicating the name of the speaker you want to address. The moderator will read the questions and the speakers will answer to you live on video. Please, consider that due to the streaming, there will be some seconds of delay. In case of problems, please, let us know via chat.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the webinar Info from the Network. Today, my name is Emanuele and I'm part of the training provider team. And together with Silvia Paolucci and Gian Claudio Celia, my colleagues, we would like to welcome our guest speakers. First of all, we would like to welcome Paulo Emerenciano and Robert Komaromi from the European Labour Authority for sharing the information about how the last presentation of the annual report from the European Labour Authority and Eurofound went in Brussels last year. Then we would like also to thank Vera, Onnebrink, and Zainab Saadoun from ZAV, the Public Employment Services in Germany. Also, a big thank from us to Margarida Silva, training coordinator from Portugal, and Eva Touriño from Spain, from the EURES network from Spain. And we also have another guest today, Ilaria Sicilia from the Italian network. So good morning, Ilaria.
Good morning.
We would like also to keep going with your with this Q&A session, but before that, we would like also to ask Ilaria a couple of questions, of course. So Ilaria, we would like to know first of all, what is your experience with EURES job events and job fair?
Oh, thank you so much for the question. My experience is a great one. I mean, I attended a lot of online job events and job fair, and I always do presentation about living and working in Italy. And during the presentation, there are a lot of questions in the chat. So I think that this will be very nice for the people who are attending the job fair. Knowing about living and working in the EU country is the great experience we had.
Thank you. Another question would be, if it's possible for you, could you please individuate 2 or 3 points of improvement in EURES job fairs?
Oh, yes. For example, there are some cultural differences. I mean, in every country, the idea to attend a job fair depends on the time differences. And so we have to keep in mind there are these big differences, not only for the daylight saving time, but also for habits of people. So this is things to take in account when you are attending or organizing a online job fair. And for example, also the promotion in the home country is very important in order to have a lot of job seekers participating to the job fairs. And I think these could be the key points for a nice result of these events.
I see. Thank you. We always say that EURES, one of the most important pillars in EURES is the human one. So according to you, how important is the human network in EURES? And also, how can job fairs and events can show this human side of EURES? What is your opinion on that?
I always strongly believe in the human network of EURES. I'm in confidence. I think it's the key word. Confidence is one of the closest synonyms for trust. It means the feeling of belief that one person can rely to someone or something. And this is the meaning of the human network in EURES. I mean, there are a lot of online events. There are a lot of websites, but people want to refer to someone. And we also, with the human network, we can share a lot of information in order to more suggest and increase the idea of EURES in Europe, and also to help people getting the right choice in their life. So I strongly believe in the human network in EURES. And during the job fair, I attend a lot of chat moments. And also sharing this moment with the colleagues is very important also in the feedback, because you still as a EURES advisor, we improve our knowing about EURES network. And so this is strongly important, the human network in EURES. Is the key point, I have to say, in our networking, in our job.
Definitely, yes. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Another question, generally speaking, how was it like to participate in the program and in the whole organization?
Oh, for me, it's very exciting because you are really where the things happen. So you can have a good situation about what's going on in Europe. And for example, as I said before, during the living and working session, there are a lot of people participating and asking questions. And after this, in the chat, there are a lot of movement of people and they want to know a lot of things. Also information not regarding, especially, for example, this is the summer, but in general, in my experience, how it goes in Italy, the labor market, the job offer. So it's a great experience in order to reach people wherever they are.
Excellent, thank you. Now I have a question for both Ilaria and perhaps also Anna Margarita or Eva if they want to answer. What do you think what are the reasons for the increase in numbers of participants in this year, in particular in this experience you had? So maybe Ilaria if you want, and then Anna Margarita or Eva.
Okay, we have a lot of promotion session, both for job seekers and companies. And we also have a mailing list to send the invitation and also to have seminars in the public employment services and in other contests. So I think that promotion and also to have great information and also nice job offer.
Maybe I can add something then. Actually, we promoted the event at the EU level and as well with the cooperation of every colleague or every country within EURES. This helps us quite a lot. We would have liked to do it a bit sooner, but still we asked for cooperation for every colleague. Also through the EURES community of practice. And actually we also got, and we really have to thank colleagues from other countries who were not directly involved in the organization of the event for having promoted it in their own countries. Actually, we had quite an interesting number of participants from Finland, from Romania. I cannot remember all of them, but we have shared this information during the presentation. And I would also like to thank a little big help from the European Commission, who supported us in the promotion of the event via the EURES, the European networks, so namely Europe Direct and Euro Guidance and the Eurodesk at the EU level. So they helped us pass on the word to the networks at the European level. And I think this helped us a little as well. Besides, of course, all of the promotion that Ilaria already mentioned and that we have done in every one of the 9 countries which were involved in the event organization. But maybe we could pass on the word to Eva regarding this matter, because I think Eva Spain had the largest number of participants within the event, so maybe you can add a little word about it.
Okay, well, I consider that together with the 2 or 3 factors that you have already mentioned, I think that in this edition, we also have to take into account that we are talking about summer season and summer jobs. And in this edition, people were not so afraid to restrictions to mobility due to pandemics or COVID-19 as happened in the previous edition. So probably you see a little bit more interest in mobility for summer jobs than in the 2 previous years. But it is also very normal from my point of view. Apart from promotion and all that, yeah, I agree with my colleagues, and I've already mentioned that this is a teamwork regarding the whole country involved in promoting the event and among job seekers and so on. But yeah, pandemics is also a factor to take into consideration.
Excellent, thank you very much. Very interesting perspective. Now, I would like to move to the question via chat. So, Robert, good morning. We have a question from you as a representative from ELA in particular. They were asking us, they were saying that the dashboard seems to be a quite useful tool. They were talking about, of course, the report, and they were asking if you're planning to make it available or to embed it in as a complement on the labor market information section on the EURES portal.
Yes, good morning, colleagues, again. The answer is yes, it is already on the EURES portal. Let me share my screen. And this is the EURES portal subsection, living in working conditions, and the report, I mean the dashboard of the report is already there. You can click here to download. So I think with this slide, I can answer the question. At the same time, I would like to highlight that the report is being published since 2016, and this is the first year when we publish not only the text, but also the data. So it is our first attempt to publish data. And as you know, the most important target group, the EURES advisors, the EURES staff, and the NCO staff. So colleagues at the network, please feel free to add your comments and remarks regarding the dashboard, because it is our first attempt to publish the data. So please check, please surf on the data surface, and please not to forget to give us feedback regarding improvements. As you know, maybe you know that we are going to launch the new report again in 2023, again with the dashboard, and hopefully with improved functions of the dashboard. So please feel free to give us feedbacks about the improvements.
Absolutely, very important. Thank you. Another question was, can you please explain how women are underrepresented on shortages?
Oh, this is a very deep scientific question, I think. So the framework of this webinar is too small to answer this question, but let me share again my screen. Here you can see the report starting on page 46. Subchapter 5.2, there is a dedicated subchapter about this issue. So please check the details, and if you have any further questions, we are ready to answer.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much, Robert. Now let's move to the following questions from for our guest from Germany. Good morning, Vera. Good morning, Zainab.
Morning.
We have two questions for you. They were asking us if there are participants, if your participants are only from the European Union, or also if there are other third country national citizens.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Well, we have both European citizens and participants from third countries. I'd say the majority is still from third countries, but by posting it on EURES as well, we hope to attract more European citizens as well, as this is, of course, a very interesting market for us as well.
Of course, thank you. And another question was related to the number of CVs coming from third country nationals or European Union citizens. So perhaps, I don't know if you have the idea on these two different numbers.
Unfortunately, we do not have those numbers, as we're not counting or differentiating between the two groups. So we can have a look, but as Vera mentioned, the majority is from non-EU countries.
Thank you. Thank you. Very interesting. Another question was coming, I think, from the Netherlands, was addressed to Margarida. If from the Netherlands, they were asking to join you, Margarida, in your organizations, in managing your organization. It's of course a funny question, but perhaps it's something feasible in the future. What do you think?
It's not so funny. It's actually not the first time we have it. Actually, as you know, the event came out of the need from Southern Europe countries to attract a few more workers for the tourism sector. And all of this is related. And actually, as you see from the surplus and shortage report, we are now having more and more shortages at the EU level. And if you compare, and I'm sorry to connect this, but it's related somehow. And of course, we know that Southern Europe countries have maybe not exactly the same conditions to offer than Central Europe countries, Northern Europe countries within tourism. So sometimes we were a bit balanced about extending it too much to other countries, but we are considering the possibility not to. Well, we are still deciding, because it's still a discussion going on within the team, whether to open up to every country, which could be very megalomanous. And it would be very difficult to coordinate, because in this event, the coordination issue is key. And of course, we're talking about a few countries who are trying to organize themselves and try to join. And coordinate it at the EU level is a task which is not in our hands to manage. So eventually, what we could do in 2024, maybe we could give it a try and invite a couple of countries who have already shown their interest to join. The Netherlands may be one of them. Also because they have needs in certain occupations which are very popular within our event, namely within entertainment and so on. Maybe we will give it a try in 2024. But bearing in mind that the coordination is key in this event, and we wouldn't like to have such a huge event, which is very difficult to manage at the European level. And on the other hand, we have our employers' interests to care about as well in Southern Europe countries. But on the other hand, it's also true, and Eva will probably add this, so I will leave it to you. But actually, that if we provide other options to job seekers, maybe the event becomes even more interesting, because of course there will be a motivation for each and every individual to move during the summer, which may be different and which may be based not only in wages, in traditional working conditions, but also in the emotional wage, in the experience, in the other factors that we have to offer in Southern Europe countries. So this is something we consider with very carefully, and probably we will get back to these countries who have already approached us in the near future.
Thank you.
Yeah, if I may add something, from my point of view, also it would be interesting to get more active participation from certain countries, because we are actually aiming at job seekers with a certain linguistic profile and certain language skills. And it is not easy to reach people who can speak fluent German, for instance, to work in Spain or Italy or Slovenia. But maybe if the Netherlands or Germany were directly involved in the event, they would bring more job seekers with them, and they could find a position suitable for their profile no matter where. So that is also something to be taken into account. I mean, of course, it is in our interest to offer as many choices as possible for job seekers registered in the event, but it is also part of our concern to offer our own employers certain language skills and profiles that could be interesting for them too. So yeah.
And in the meantime, we expect the directive of minimum income and minimum wages at the EU level will do its own pathway. And maybe in the future, we will be much closer to our colleagues from other countries in terms of the working conditions we can offer to job seekers. But this is a dream I have for a few years now.
Thank you, thank you. Let's keep dreaming. Now that we are into the topic, and I don't see any other question from participants. Just one final question from our side. How, according to you, how is to coordinate in detail the promotion of Seize the Summer at European Union level in detail, in concrete? I would like to ask you. You have already covered a little bit the topic, but now in terms of effort, also, how is it?
Eva, I think this one is for you.
Do you think so? I'm not that sure. I'm not so sure. Well, so far, I think this has been possible because no matter how many countries were involved, and there were quite a few of them, you always have someone, in this case is Margarida, who has the bigger picture of the whole thing, who knows in which situation we are at what time, which is the deadline, how is every country progressing, if there are missing things in the platform and we still haven't cared about. She is the one taking a look at it all. And yeah, maybe, I mean, I think I think she's been more than involved in this every year and every edition, and maybe we're asking maybe too much from her to take a look at everything when there are 12, 13, 15 countries involved in this. I mean, she has more than enough on her plate already, and it is not possible to have one person inside the organization taking care of everything at once when there are 15 or 12 countries involved. It's just not possible. Even if she delegates, I mean, we are also active EURES advisors taking care of many other things that are part of the OJDs. So it is hard to, I mean, it is hard probably to make a final effort in your office when you're overloaded with some other works that you also have to carry out and so much and all these things. But it is even harder for someone who has this important role of being the big coordinator of the event. I really cannot see she can really manage that. Because I don't know about you, but I've taken a look at her calendar of pending tasks for a single week, and, and I really don't know how she can manage already. So I wouldn't put any more things on her plate besides that.
Well, maybe I should add something on my behalf in this case. This comes with a message for all the countries who would like to join, and also for all the countries who are already in, which is yes, because basically we have in the way we organize the event, we have two main parts of it, let's say. We have a group of tasks, group of responsibilities, which is for each and every member state participating to manage at the national level. And then we have some common tasks which are of interest to the whole organization of the event, where we really need more people engaged than just Margarida, Eva, and Nada, and Ivana, and so on. So whoever joins will have the task, will have to be assigned with some tasks for the benefit of the whole group as well. And I think this also comes this is also a message for the whole group, because it's really complicated, and you must believe me, every one of our countries has its own way of working at the national level. Different paces, different organizational methods. So it's really, really huge to coordinate it all. I think your question was also regarding a little bit about promotion and communication. And actually, we got some help. And this year, we also tried to coordinate with EURES a bit better, namely regarding social media. And this is maybe a message we'd like to convey to others who are organizing events. And it's really important that in order for you to have a coherent communication plan, that you coordinate it as well with the efforts which are being made at the EU level accounts. Okay, this way it will be, as Eva was saying in the presentation, I believe, we have to not to overdo it. Sometimes, as you say, overdoing it can become even more counterproductive than doing it a bit less. So it's a balance we have to reach, and definitely coordination in this event is a huge task.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, we have approached the end of our webinar, so we welcome everybody for this for watching this webinar. You, of course, we remind you to fill the satisfaction questionnaire you will find on the chat that we will copy in a moment. We thank, of course, our guest speakers, Robert Komaromi, Paulo Emerenciano for the European Labour Authority, Vera Onnebrink and Zainab Saadoun for ZAV Germany, Ana Margarida Silva from the Portuguese network, Eva Touriño from the Spanish one, Ilaria Sicilia from the Italian one. And we wish you a nice day, and we wait for another webinar very soon. So thank you, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.